All right, so have you ever felt like your brain just wants to scroll endlessly, you know, like instead of tackling that big project?
Oh, yeah, I think we've all been there.
Well, we're diving into the art of dopamine management today. And trust me, this isn't your average productivity hack.
Right. What's so interesting here is that we're going to be exploring how to rewire your brain to crave doing hard things.
Yeah, and we're going to be using a fascinating personal story as our guide.
Yeah, for sure.
This idea really grabbed me because it starts with a pretty incredible story about two brothers in communist China.
Okay.
And their family lost everything during the Cultural Revolution.
Oh, wow.
They were forced into hard labor. The whole deal. Tough doesn't even begin to describe it.
So like starting from the bottom.
Yeah, and it's within that struggle that we see the seeds of this whole dopamine management concept being sown.
Interesting.
One brother kind of resigned himself to the situation, but the older one, he was determined to find a way out.
So like two opposite approaches to a really tough situation.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Now, the younger brother got assigned to tend cattle, which honestly sounds kind of idyllic, right?
Like peaceful?
Napping in fields,
Yeah.
making up games.
But as the story unfolds, you see how that good enough attitude actually kept him stuck?
I see.
And this is where we get into this idea of a dopamine energy meter.
Okay.
Think of it like a finite resource that we spend each day.
Okay.
The younger brother, through complacency, was essentially leaking that energy into what the source calls the furnace of waste.
The furnace of waste. I like that.
And I think we can all relate to that, right?
Yeah.
How much time do we spend on things that feel good in the moment?
Yeah.
Social media binge watching?
Yeah.
But ultimately don't really get us closer to our goals.
Exactly. It's that instant gratification trap.
Yeah.
And the challenge is that the furnace of purpose, the one that fuels the hard work, the growth, it often feels so much further away.
Right.
And it demands way more effort.
Absolutely. Now, for the older brother, surrounded by hardship, that furnace of purpose must have felt miles away. But get this, he started teaching himself to read. Wow.
Using any scrap of paper he could find.
Really?
Even discarded propaganda pamphlets became valuable to him.
That's amazing.
A fantastic illustration of how our mindset can shift our dopamine rewards.
Yeah.
He didn't see those scraps as trash.
Mm.
They were a path to something better, a way to escape his situation.
A way out.
And that seemingly small act of seeking knowledge in the midst of chaos really set the stage for their drastically different futures.
Interesting.
60 years later, the younger brother is facing hardship, addiction, health issues, but the older brother,
Let me guess. He's doing well.
he ends up working at the Federal Reserve Bank in the United States.
Wow. Okay.
It's a pretty stark example of how those daily dopamine choices add up over time.
That's really powerful.
And what makes this story even more compelling is that it's not just some abstract example. The person sharing it in the video is the older brother's son.
Oh, wow.
It's his father's journey that inspired this whole dopamine management framework he teaches.
So this is like a personal story for him. Exactly. Okay, so now I'm hooked. Tell me more about this framework. How do we actually start managing our dopamine in a way that leads to real long-term change?
Well, he breaks it down into 5 actionable steps. Awareness, elimination, timing, rewards, and recovery.
Okay.
And each one plays a crucial role in shifting our dopamine spending from that furnace of waste to the furnace of purpose.
Okay, I like it. All right, let's break down these steps one by one. Where do we even begin?
It all starts with awareness. You can't change a behavior if you're not even conscious of it.
Yeah.
So let's take a moment to reflect. Where are you spending your dopamine? What are your furnaces of waste?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's so easy to just go on autopilot and not even realize how much time we're wasting on things that don't really matter. But once we're aware of those dopamine leaks, what's the next step?
Well, the next step is elimination.
Yeah.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The source calls this escaping Mount Everest,
Escaping Mount Everest.
which essentially means creating an environment where success is the only option.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm picturing myself stranded on Mount Everest with no wifey, no phone, and a giant to-do list.
How does that translate to real life?
Well, it's about strategically removing those tempting furnaces of waste from your surroundings.
Okay.
Think about it. If you're trying to focus on work, but your phone is constantly buzzing with notifications, it's
Yeah.
going to be a constant battle for your attention.
So it's like setting yourself up for success by minimizing those distractions.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. I've definitely noticed that when I leave my phone in another room, I get so much more done.
Exactly. And the source gives a great example of learning a new language. What's the most effective way to do it? Immerse yourself in a country where you have no choice but to speak it.
Right. Because you're forced to rely on that new language to navigate daily life.
Mhm.
So your brain starts to associate it with reward, with progress, with that dopamine hit.
Exactly. It's about creating that same sense of urgency and focus in other areas of your life. By eliminating those easy distractions, you're essentially forcing your brain to seek those dopamine rewards in the furnace of purpose. So we've raised our awareness, we've minimized distractions. What's the next step in this dopamine management journey?
Timing is crucial. Our dopamine levels are naturally highest in the morning. So the key is to capitalize on that peak motivation time.
Okay.
Instead of wasting it on mindless scrolling or checking email, tackle your most challenging tasks first thing.
I've heard that advice before,
Yeah.
but I've always struggled with actually implementing it. Why is it so important to prioritize those difficult tasks when our willpower is fresh?
Because it sets a positive tone for the rest of the day.
Okay.
Imagine starting your day by conquering that one task you've been dreading. It creates a sense of accomplishment, a feeling of momentum that can carry through to other areas of your life.
Plus, if you put it off, it's just going to loom over you all day, draining your energy and focus. It's like
Yeah.
getting that big rock out of your backpack first thing in the morning so you can hike more freely.
Exactly. And the source suggests spending at least 5 minutes on your hardest task first thing every day. Even if you don't finish it, those 5 minutes create a sense of progress, a small win that can boost your motivation and build momentum.
I love that idea. It's not about trying to do everything at once, but rather creating a consistent habit of tackling those challenging tasks head on when our brains are primed for it.
And often those 5 minutes turn into 10, then 20. And before you know it, you've made significant progress. It's amazing how much we can accomplish when we just overcome that initial inertia.
Right.
But it's important to remember that dopamine management isn't just about deprivation and hard work.
Good.
Rewards play a crucial role, too.
Okay, that's a relief to hear. So how do we incorporate rewards in a way that supports our goals rather than sabotages them?
It's all about being strategic with your pleasure.
Okay.
The source talks about using music as a reward instead of having it on constantly in the background, which can lead to desensitization. Save it for specific moments after a productive work session, during a workout, or when you're engaging in an activity that aligns with your goals.
I love that. It's about making those moments of enjoyment more intentional, more
Yeah.
rewarding by associating them with accomplishment.
Exactly. And he also talks about using Pavlovian conditioning to hack your reward system. He actually trained himself to crave doing planks by associating them with playing a mobile game.
Wait, seriously? He made himself enjoy planks by pairing them with a game.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It might sound strange, but it really works. By linking a challenging task with something enjoyable, you can trick your brain into wanting to do the hard thing. It's like creating a positive feedback loop that fuels your motivation.
So we've covered awareness, elimination, timing, and rewards. What's the final piece of this dopamine management puzzle?
The final and perhaps most crucial step is recovery. We can't run on empty forever.
Right.
We need to give our brains and bodies a chance to rest, recharge, and replenish those dopamine reserves.
I think this is where a lot of people, myself included, tend to stumble. We get so caught up in the hustle and the pursuit of our goals that we forget to prioritize rest and recovery.
It's a common trap, but without adequate rest, we risk burnout, decreased productivity, and ultimately jeopardizing our long-term well-being. It's like trying to drive a car with an empty tank. Eventually, you're going to come to a screeching halt.
So how do we make sure we're incorporating enough recovery into our lives? What does effective recovery look like in the context of dopamine management?
It's about finding a balance between pushing yourself and recognizing your limits. The source emphasizes the importance of both daily and weekly rest, taking breaks throughout the day, disconnecting from technology, and having at least one full day of rest each week can do wonders for preventing burnout and maintaining long-term productivity.
That makes sense. It's about creating a sustainable rhythm of work and rest, effort and recovery, so we can continue to show up as our best selves, both in our personal and professional lives. So it sounds like recovery is really the key to making this whole dopamine management thing sustainable. We got to give ourselves a break, right?
Absolutely. And, it's not just about avoiding burnout. The source actually argues that proper recovery can enhance our dopamine sensitivity.
Or making those purpose activities even more rewarding over time.
So it's like a virtuous cycle. By resting strategically, we actually become more motivated and focused when we're working.
Exactly. Think of it like sharpening a knife. If you keep using it without ever honing the blade, it eventually becomes dull and ineffective.
Okay.
Rest is like that honing process for our brains.
Okay. I'm sold on the recovery piece. But I'm curious, does this source give any specific advice on how to actually optimize rest? Like, is there a right way to take a break?
You know, he touches on that briefly and mentions that he's actually working on a whole video dedicated to optimizing rest and recovery.
Oh, cool.
But one thing he emphasizes here is the importance of truly disconnecting, putting away the phone, stepping away from screens,
Yeah.
and engaging in activities that allow your mind to wander and recharge.
It's so easy to fall into the trap of passive rest, just scrolling on our phones or binge watching shows, but that doesn't really give our brains a chance to truly reset, does it? Right. It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket. You might be pouring in rest, but it's just seeping out through those constant distractions. The key is to find activities that allow for true mental detachment and restoration.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So just to recap, we've got these 5 key steps to hack our dopamine awareness elimination, timing rewards, and recovery.
Yeah,
It feels like a pretty holistic approach to managing our energy and focus.
it is. And what I appreciate about this framework is that it's not just about achieving some external goal, it's about rewiring our brains, changing our relationship with effort and reward in a way that leads to lasting change.
It's like we're taking back control of our dopamine instead of letting it control us.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And I think that's a powerful message to take away from all of this. We have more agency than we realize when it comes to shaping our motivations and behaviors.
It all comes back to that story of the 2 brothers. One chose the path of least resistance,
Yeah.
the instant gratification, and ended up struggling. The other embraced the struggle, found purpose in the most unexpected places, and ultimately achieved incredible things.
It's a stark reminder that even in the face of immense challenges, we have the power to choose where we direct our energy and attention. And those seemingly small dopamine decisions we make each day, they really do add up over time.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question to ponder. What's one small change you can make today to shift your dopamine spending toward that furnace of purpose? Maybe it's setting aside your phone for the first hour of your day, tackling that daunting task you've been putting off, or simply finding a new way to truly disconnect and recharge.
Remember, you're building your future one dopamine decision at a time. What kind of future will you choose?
That's a powerful thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into dopamine management. Until next time, keep exploring and keep those dopamine furnaces burning bright.